Papa left us in the snow to die until a stranger carried my baby sister. Away Clara pressed baby Rosie against her chest as Mama's fists hammered the cabin door. Each blow shook the wooden frame, but the lock Papa had turned from outside held firm. The truck engine growled in the distance, growing fainter with each second. "Open this door." Mama's voice cracked against the winter air. "You hear me, Thomas? Open this goddamn door." Rosie's wails pierced through Mama's screaming. Clara bounced the baby gently, but nothing could calm her. The cold seeped through the cabin walls like water through cracked stone. Outside, the truck's engine faded to nothing. Mama stopped pounding. Her breath came out in white puffs as she pressed her forehead against the door. "He ain't coming back this time." "Don't say that." Mama's voice was barely a whisper. "Look at his hands. Mama, look what was on his hands." Mama turned around, her face pale as the snow falling outside. Clara saw the truth settling in her mother's eyes. The same truth Clara had been carrying for the last hour. "That wasn't his blood, I know. Where'd it come from?" Clara shifted Rosie to her other arm. The baby had gone quiet, but her tiny body shivered against Clara's coat. Sheriff McKenna's patrol car. Saw it in the ditch 2 miles back. Mama's knees buckled. She caught herself against the door, sliding down until she sat in the snow that had blown through the gap underneath. He killed him. Maybe. You saw McKenna's car. Crashed real bad. Door hanging open. Snow already covering the windshield. The wind picked up, howling through the gaps in the cabin's weathered boards. Clara could feel the temperature dropping with each gust. Papa had taken the keys to the woodshed when he left. 3 pieces of firewood sat beside the cold stove. "Storm's getting worse," Clara said. Mama didn't respond. She stared at the door like Papa might change his mind and come back. Like the blood on his knuckles might wash away in the snow. Like Sheriff McKenna might just be taking a nap in that ditch. But Clara knew better. Papa's hands had been shaking when he locked them inside. His eyes had looked wild, desperate. Men didn't get that look from winning fights. Rosie started crying again, softer this time. Clara kissed the baby's forehead and felt how cold her skin had become. 3 hours passed before Mama moved from the door. Clara watched her mother crawl to the woodpile, digging through the scattered logs with desperate hands. Rosie finally slept against Clara's chest, but her breathing came shallow and quick. "What you looking for?" "Something your papa hid." Mama's fingers found a loose board in the pile's base. She pried it open. Inside sat a bundle of letters tied with string. Mama's hands shook as she carried them to the table. Clara moved closer, holding Rosie carefully. The candlelight flickered across official letterhead. "State Capitol," Mama whispered. Clara read over her shoulder. Questions about missing girls. Names that made her stomach drop. Sarah Hendricks from school. Jenny Morrison, who used to sit behind her in church. 3 others she recognized from town. They're all gone. No, Sheriff McKenna was asking. "Questions?" "That's why your papa ran the letters. Asked about Papa's whereabouts during specific dates. About his truck being seen near the county line. About girls who vanished without traces. He was protecting us. From what?" "From what he'd done." Mama struck a match and held it to the first letter. The paper caught fire, curling black at the edges. She dropped it into the empty stove. "Don't burn them all." "Why not?" "People need to know. People need to forget." Mama lit another letter. "Your papa made mistakes, bad ones, but he kept us fed, kept us warm." Clara watched Sarah Hendricks' name disappear in the flames. Sarah, who used to braid Clara's hair during lunch. Sarah, whose mama still hung missing posters around town. Those girls had families too. Those girls are gone. Mama burned another letter. "We're still here." The fire consumed Papa's secrets one by one. Clara wanted to grab the remaining letters, but Rosie stirred in her arms. The baby's lips looked pale in the candlelight. "She's getting cold. We're all getting cold." Only 3 logs remained in the woodpile. The burned letters provided no heat, just smoke that stung Clara's eyes. Outside, wind rattled the cabin's bones. Mama burned the last letter and closed the stove door. Now what? Now we wait. For what? For morning, for help, for your papa to come back. He ain't coming back. Mama didn't answer. She stared at the cold stove where Papa's sins had turned to ash. Clara listened to Rosie's breathing, counting each shallow breath like prayers. The cold crept closer with every passing hour. Dawn light filtered through frost-covered windows when Clara saw the figure moving through the snow. A woman in a long black coat walked steadily toward their cabin, her steps sure despite the drifts. Clara shook Mama's shoulder. "Someone's coming." Mama lifted her head from the table where she'd fallen asleep. Her eyes were red and hollow. The woman knocked softly on the door. 3 gentle taps that somehow carried more weight than Mama's earlier pounding. "Clara? My name is Eleanor. I'm here to help." Clara's blood went cold. The woman knew her name. "We don't know you, but I know you. I know your Mama's name is Beth. I know your Papa left you here. I know about Sheriff McKenna." Mama sat up straight, fear replacing exhaustion in her eyes. "What you want? To get you somewhere safe. You can't stay here. We ain't going nowhere with you." Eleanor's voice stayed calm through the door. "Child, your sister's turning blue." Clara looked down at Rosie. The baby's lips had turned a pale purple color. Her tiny fingers felt like ice against Clara's skin. "She's right," Clara whispered. "Don't matter if she's right. We don't know her. How you know our names?" Clara called out, "Your papa made arrangements." Before things went bad, Mama stood up fast, knocking her chair backward. "Thomas didn't tell us about no arrangements. Thomas didn't expect to run. But he planned for it anyway." Clara pressed her ear to the door. Eleanor's voice sounded educated, like someone from the state capitol. Her coat looked expensive through the window. "Too fine for these parts." "What kind of arrangements?" "The kind that keep you alive." Rosie made a small whimpering sound. Her breathing seemed more labored than before. Clara felt panic rising in her chest. "She needs a doctor. I have a warm car. Clean clothes. Food." "Could be anyone," Mama said. "Could be our only chance," Clara replied. Eleanor spoke again. "I have blankets in the car. Heat that works. Your baby won't last another night in this cold." Clara looked at Mama, but her mother had gone silent again, just staring at the ashes in the cold stove, like they might tell her what to do. "Mama!" No answer. Clara's hand shook as she stepped toward the door. Rosie's breathing grew more shallow with each passing minute. The stranger might be dangerous, but the cold was certain death. Her fingers closed around the door latch. Clara turned the door latch and stepped outside. Eleanor stood beside a black sedan, engine running, exhaust rising in white clouds against the morning air. The woman looked exactly like her voice suggested. Professional, clean, dangerous in ways Clara couldn't name. "Mama, we got to go." Mama sat in Papa's chair, staring at the cold stove. The ashes of his secrets scattered across the metal grate like gray snow. "I ain't leaving. The baby's dying. She's my baby too." Clara felt Rosie's shallow breathing against her chest. Each breath seemed weaker than the last. "Then come with us. This is where he'll look for us." "Mama, he ain't looking for nobody. He's running just like we should be," Eleanor called from beside her car. "We need to leave now." "The roads are getting worse," Mama shook her head slowly. Her fingers traced the chair's armrests, where Papa's hands had worn smooth grooves over the years. "This is my home. This is a tomb." Clara walked to Papa's closet and pulled out his heaviest jacket. The leather still smelled like his tobacco and sweat. She wrapped Rosie in it carefully, making sure the baby's face stayed clear. "You coming?" Mama didn't answer, just kept staring at those ashes like they might spell out Papa's next move. Clara stepped toward the door. Her boots felt heavy as stones. "Mama, take care of her. Come with us. Take care of her." Clara waited another moment, but Mama had gone somewhere else entirely. Somewhere Clara couldn't follow. She opened the door and stepped into the cold. Snow crunched under her boots as she walked toward Eleanor's car. Each step felt like betrayal and salvation mixed together. Behind her, the cabin sat silent. Mama didn't come to the window, didn't call out, didn't try to stop her. Eleanor opened the back door and Clara climbed inside. The heat hit her like a wall. Rosie's breathing was barely a whisper now, but the warmth seemed to help. Eleanor got behind the wheel and put the car in gear. Through the rear window, Clara watched their cabin grow smaller. Smoke still rose from the chimney, where Mama sat alone with Papa's ghost and his burned secrets. Eleanor drove slowly through the storm, her hands steady on the wheel. Clara sat in the back seat holding Rosie, watching their cabin shrink to a dot through the rear window. The warmth felt good against her skin, but something cold settled in her stomach. "Where we going?" "Somewhere safe." "That ain't an answer." Eleanor glanced at Clara in the rearview mirror. Her eyes looked kind, but Clara had learned not to trust kind eyes. "My house." "About an hour from here." The road curved through pine trees heavy with snow. Clara had never been this far from home. Everything looked the same, but felt different. "Like traveling to another world? How'd you know about us?" "Your papa talked about you girls. Said you were special." "When did you talk to Papa?" "Last month. Maybe 6 weeks ago." Clara's grip tightened on Rosie. Papa had never mentioned meeting anyone new. What did he say? That he might need help someday. That his girls would need looking after. Eleanor asked casual questions as she drove. About Papa's work schedule. About the men who came to visit. About his trips to the county seat. He ever mentioned the McKenna family? Clara's blood went cold. "Some." Sheriff McKenna had a daughter. "Pretty girl about your age." "Had?" "She went missing 2 years ago." "Just like the others." Clara stared out at the passing trees. Eleanor's voice stayed calm, like discussing weather. "You know what he'd done. I know what needed doing. That ain't the same thing." "Sometimes it is." Eleanor's answers came too smooth, like she'd practiced them, like she'd been thinking about this conversation for weeks. "Papa killed those girls?" "Your papa cleaned up problems for important people." "Sometimes cleaning gets messy." "What kind of problems?" "The kind that can't go to court. The kind that need handling." Clara felt sick. Rosie stirred in her arms, making soft baby sounds. At least she was warming up. Who are these important people? Governors, judges, men with money and secrets. And Papa worked for them? Papa worked for survival. Like we all do. Clara watched the landscape roll past. Nothing looked familiar anymore. Eleanor knew too much about Papa's business. About the missing girls. About Sheriff McKenna's daughter. This woman hadn't found them by accident. She'd been waiting. Eleanor's house sat in a valley Clara had never seen before. 2 stories of white clapboard with black shutters. It looked normal from the outside. But stepping through the front door felt like walking into a museum. Photographs covered every wall. Children of all ages stared out from frames. Boys and girls, babies and teenagers, all with the same distant look in their eyes. Like they were seeing something just beyond the camera. "These your children." "Children I've helped." Clara shifted Rosie in her arms, studying the faces. Some looked recent, others faded with age. All of them seemed sad in ways children shouldn't be. "Where are they now?" "Safe." Eleanor hung her coat on a hook by the door. The house felt too warm after the cold outside. Too quiet, like it was holding its breath. "How many children you helped?" "As many as needed helping." Eleanor led Clara upstairs, past more photographs. A little girl with Clara's dark hair. A boy about 10 with serious eyes. A baby who looked almost exactly like Rosie. "This will be your room," Eleanor said. Opening a door, inside sat a crib with fresh sheets, a changing table stocked with supplies, and a dresser painted soft yellow. Everything looked recently used but carefully cleaned. Someone was here before us. Children come and go. Clara walked to the dresser and pulled open the top drawer. Baby clothes in Rosie's exact size. Tiny shirts, soft pants, warm socks, like someone had measured Rosie in her sleep. These clothes fit her perfect. I'm good at guessing sizes. In the corner of the crib sat a small wooden doll, hand-carved and worn smooth by little fingers. Clara picked it up, feeling its weight. Someone had loved this toy, the baby who was here before. Where'd she go? To a family who needed her. What happened to her real family? Sometimes real families aren't the best families. Clara's hands trembled as she set the doll back down. This room hadn't been prepared for just any baby. It had been waiting for Rosie specifically. The clothes, the timing, even Eleanor's arrival at their cabin. How long you been planning this? Planning what? Taking her. Eleanor's smile never wavered, but something shifted behind her eyes. I don't take children, Clara. I save them. From what? From fathers who make bad choices. While Eleanor ran a bath for Rosie, Clara wandered through the house. The photographs on the walls seemed to watch her move from room to room. All those children's faces, all those lost eyes. Eleanor's office sat at the end of the hallway. Clara pushed the door open and stepped inside. A large desk dominated the space, covered with neat stacks of papers. File cabinets lined one wall. Everything looked professional, official. Clara opened the desk's top drawer and froze. A manila folder marked with her family's name sat inside. Her hands shook as she pulled it out. The first photograph showed Papa loading his truck. Clara recognized their cabin in the background. The second showed Clara herself walking to school, taken from a distance with a long lens. The third captured Mama hanging laundry, while Rosie slept in a basket nearby. Jesus Christ, more photos. Papa talking to men in suits. Papa counting money. Papa's truck parked behind the county courthouse. Dozens of images spanning months. Under the photographs sat legal documents. Custody papers with names Clara didn't recognize. Foster care arrangements. Court orders waiting for signatures. You've been planning this. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, holding a clean towel. Her face showed no surprise at being caught. Your father knew this day would come. You talked to Papa. Men like him always need an exit strategy. Clara spread the documents across the desk. How long you been watching us? 6 months. Maybe 7. Why? Your papa's last job went sideways. He knew the state would come looking. He wanted you girls protected before that happened. Clara found a handwritten letter in Papa's familiar scrawl. Instructions for Eleanor. Details about Clara and Rosie's care. Specific directions about keeping them together. He planned this whole thing. Smart man. Dangerous but smart. What about Mama? Eleanor's expression darkened. What about her? Where's her name on these papers? Your Mama wasn't part of the arrangement. Clara felt cold understanding wash over her. He was leaving her behind. Your Mama knew too much about his business. She'd be a liability, so you just let her freeze? Your Mama made her choice. She chose to stay. Clara stared at Papa's letter. His handwriting looked rushed, desperate, like he'd written it knowing his time was running out. But nowhere in the careful instructions did he mention saving his wife. He never loved her. He loved you girls enough to plan ahead. But not her. Not enough. Eleanor found Clara still holding Papa's letter when she returned from bathing. Rosie. The baby looked pink and healthy again, wrapped in a clean towel that smelled like lavender soap. She's better already. Warm water and food work miracles. Clara folded Papa's letter and set it on the desk. What happens now? Now we follow your Papa's plan. Eleanor sat across from Clara and explained the arrangement. Rosie would go to a family upstate. Good people who'd been trying to have children for years. Clara could stay here until she turned 18, finish school, learn a trade. What about Rosie? She'll be safe, loved, fed. I mean, what about seeing her? Eleanor's expression grew gentle but firm. You won't see her again. Clara felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. Ever? It's better that way. Clean breaks heal faster. She needs a real family. I am her family. You're 16 years old. I raised her from birth. Changed every diaper. Fed her every meal. That's exactly why you know what's best. Clara wanted to argue, but Rosie made a small, happy sound and reached for Clara's finger. Her tiny hand gripped tight, like she was trying to hold on to something she couldn't name. Eleanor left to make phone calls. Clara heard her in the kitchen, speaking in low, professional tones. Official voices discussed transportation schedules and paperwork requirements. Everything sounded so normal, so businesslike. Clara carried Rosie to the window and looked out at the snowy valley. Somewhere out there, Papa was running from his mistakes. Somewhere behind them, Mama sat alone in a cold cabin. And somewhere ahead, strangers waited to love Rosie in ways Clara might never be able to. You deserve better than this, Clara whispered. She memorized everything about her sister. The way Rosie's hair curled at the base of her neck, her smell of baby powder and milk, the weight of her small body against Clara's chest, how she gripped Clara's finger like it was the most important thing in the world. Clara understood Eleanor was right. Rosie needed parents with money, education, stability. She needed a life free from Papa's sins and Mama's silences. She needed everything Clara couldn't give her, but knowing what was right didn't make it hurt less. Eleanor returned with news. The family could pick up Rosie tomorrow morning. They had a car seat, a nursery, college funds already started. They'd been waiting for a baby for 3 years. They'll love her. I know. She'll never want for anything. I know. Clara kissed Rosie's forehead one more time, breathing in her baby scent. I know. David and Marie arrived in the afternoon, driving a clean sedan that looked out of place in Eleanor's snowy valley. Clara watched from the window as they stepped out carefully, like they were entering a church. Both looked to be in their 30s, with kind eyes and empty arms that seemed to ache for something to hold. Eleanor let them inside and made introductions. David wore a wool coat and spoke softly. Marie carried a diaper bag that looked expensive but practical. They moved around Rosie like she was made of glass. She's beautiful, Marie whispered. She's perfect, David added. Clara felt her chest tighten. These people would give Rosie everything. College funds and birthday parties and Christmas mornings full of wrapped presents. Everything Clara could never provide. I packed her things. Clara had filled a small bag with Rosie's clothes, a few bottles, and Papa's leather jacket folded small. She also included the wooden doll from the crib, though it felt like stealing from the ghost of some other child. She likes to be held facing out, so she can see everything. We'll remember. She don't sleep without something soft. We have a blanket her grandmother made, Marie said. It's been waiting in the nursery. Clara lifted Rosie from her basket and held her close one last time. The baby looked up at her with dark eyes that seemed too knowing for someone so small. Like she understood this was goodbye. I love you, Clara whispered. David and Marie waited patiently while Clara said her goodbyes. No rushing, no checking watches. They understood this moment mattered. Clara carried Rosie outside to their car. The back seat held a car seat that looked like it cost more than Papa made in a month. Straps and padding and safety features Clara had never seen before. She placed Rosie inside carefully, making sure everything was secure. Rosie didn't cry. She looked up at Clara through the car window with those same dark eyes. Clara wanted to wave, wanted to smile, wanted to give her sister something hopeful to remember. But her arms felt too heavy to lift. David started the engine. Marie reached back to touch Rosie's hand. They drove slowly down the valley road. Careful on the snowy pavement, Clara watched until the car disappeared around a bend. Rosie's face had been pressed against the window. Still looking back, Eleanor stood beside her as the silence settled. You did right. Don't feel right. Right things rarely do. Clara's arms hung empty at her sides. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to carry. Spring arrived slowly, melting the snow one drop at a time. Clara watched from the kitchen window as patches of brown earth appeared in Eleanor's backyard. The silence felt different now, not empty, but full of possibility. Time to start the garden, Eleanor said. They worked side by side, turning soil that smelled rich and alive. Eleanor taught Clara which vegetables grew back year after year and which needed replanting. They put in tomatoes, beans, carrots, flowers too. Things that would bloom and die and bloom again. Gardens need patience. I'm learning patience. Good skill to have. Eleanor taught Clara other things. How to drive Eleanor's sedan on the valley roads. How to balance checkbooks and write letters. How to ask questions that mattered instead of questions that hurt. The first letter arrived in April, a photograph of Rosie sitting up, reaching for something beyond the camera's view. Her new parents had written on the back in careful handwriting. She's crawling now, loves music, sleeps through the night. Clara kept the letters in a shoebox under her bed. More photographs came. Rosie taking her first steps. Rosie covered in birthday cake. Rosie laughing at something her new father was doing. She looks happy. She is happy. That's what matters. That's what love looks like, Clara wrote back sometimes. Short notes about the garden, about learning to drive, about Eleanor's other children who came and went like seasons. But she never asked to visit, never asked for addresses or phone numbers. Walking through the house one evening, Clara looked at the photographs on Eleanor's walls with new eyes. All those children who'd seemed so sad when she first arrived. Now she saw something different. They weren't trophies of Eleanor's collecting. They were graduations, pictures of children who'd grown strong enough to leave. News came in late spring that Papa's body had been found in a river 2 counties over. Sheriff McKenna's body had been discovered when the snow melted, just like Clara had expected. Some questions got answered in the newspaper reports. Others never would. Clara found she didn't need all the answers anymore. She had enough. Eleanor found her reading Papa's old letter one evening and sat beside her on the porch. "You staying or going?" "Don't know yet. Take your time." "Garden's not going anywhere." Clara folded the letter and looked out at the valley. Somewhere out there, Rosie was growing up safe. Somewhere behind them, Mama's ghost haunted an empty cabin. But here, in this moment, Clara had everything she needed.